As to Rapid Systems and the development of the company, how are you pleased with the number of customers that you have today, or do you still have a backlog? How is that going?
It's going wonderful. We're doing wonderful. We hear things all the time about how happy people are with the service. We're providing a great service in Hardy County, and I hear it all the time. Very rarely do I ever hear any complaints about what we're doing or the service that we're providing. And if you go on our website, despite what other people say, you'll see that compared to other counties, we are still providing the lowest cost of internet service. The cost is still very reasonable, and even our installation rate is very reasonable. And you can compare it to even what we're serving in the other counties. Hardy County has the lowest price for internet service, despite the fact that this whole program is over, even towards our other counties that we provide services for.
At least I'm very happy with the service and
Thank
Rapid
you.
System.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Have you resolved the Netflix situation?
Well, that's their issue. They have an issue.
Any?
Any other questions or comments on the Rapid Systems update?
On the equipment deal, we still don't know anything about that.
We don't know anything about the equipment. It's still there.
The lien, in regards to the lien
Yes.
and all of that, that equipment is part of the system now. That is part of our system.
Is FERPA ongoing
It is an ongoing entity, and it is composed of the counties of Opportunity, Florida, and North Florida, and Freddie in this part of the state.
If they win a settlement, does FERPA have any money to pay?
Their insurance company.
It is gone to the insurance, professional and liability insurance.
I will say that Dustin is here quite regularly and keeps me updated, and he's still working, upgrading equipment and improving the system, and I want to thank you publicly for what you've done here. There's one other, I hear people talk about broadband and then I'll hush, but all of these other projects were predicated on producing a middle mile. And a middle mile is a great part of broadband, but if it doesn't have an ability to deploy it, the service with a last mile, it doesn't really cash flow ever. And what we have in Hardy County is a middle mile that also deploys a last mile. And that's what makes our system work, where these other systems, until they get someone that can physically go out and find a way to deploy the middle mile, either through burying of fiber or putting up monopoles like we did, I don't know how they're ever going to make it cash flow. And that's been a glitch from day one. But the federal government would only allow them to spend money building a middle mile. So most of those projects have just not really materialized into anything that had significant cash flow.
It's about $88 million. And we have, off of our investment, we actually have the real network with real customers. They do.
Yes. Well, we thank you.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come up here and speak. I know that there's circulation that, we don't want to talk about it, or we're not part of it anymore. We're very much part of this community, and we love serving the people of Hardy County. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, before we move into financial report, we do need to tentatively set a date for the workshop for us to review the Continuum Labs review by Clifton Larson Allen and the incubator. So if there are no objections, we'll tentatively set that date for October the 28th, which is 2 weeks from today. Does anybody have any conflicts that they know of already for that date? I think that's 2 board members who may not be here, so we'll.
I may or may not be
Okay, we'll circulate an email to find out who all would be able to be in attendance. I'm not sure yet if Clifton Larson Allen will have the review finalized and able to release that yet, but we do want to get that scheduled as soon as we can. So Christy will circulate a couple of dates and we'll see what the availability of everyone is for that meeting. Okay, I think we're ready to move into financial report. I think it's unplugged in the back. Not the handheld.
Okay. Page 11 of your agenda starts the financials for the EDC. We'll take a look at the balance sheet. As of September 30th, 2014, we had $94,014.85. Our total equity shows at the bottom being the same. We have assets due from the CRA in the amount of $1,000, which is the rent that they pay each month for the space. If you turn to the next page on page 12, that's our profit and loss. You can see that we took in $50,000 in grants. That is a draw that we made from the BOCC funding that we received. We received $2,000 in rent from the CRA and had $385.60 in reimbursements. The expenses for the month, it was a fairly ordinary month. The only expense that I would like to detail for you under insurance, the $1,100, that was the renewal for the director and officer insurance policy. So I just wanted to make note of that. That's a little bit different, something that doesn't show up all the time. But feel safe, you are insured. If you keep flipping to page 13, that's just an overview of our year. We have come to the beginning of our new fiscal year starting October 1st. So this is just a review from October of 13 through the end of September. Under that, you can see that we did take in $300,000 in grants. We had some rental income of $12,000 from the CRA. And we transferred in $39,600 from the IDA to cover expenses. So if you look down at our expense column, we had an expense of $316,704.33, leaving us with $42,781. We use that as a carry forward each year to supplement our budget for the next fiscal year. So that money just continues to roll into the next fiscal year's balance. The pages that follow are your general ledger that shows the detailed checks for that month. If there's a question on a particular transaction, I'll be glad to answer it. If not, that would conclude the EDC financials and we can move into the IDA. So are there any questions on EDC financials at this point? Page 19 is your reconciliation, so that does show the reconciled bank account for the month. If not, we'll turn to page 20. That's the balance sheet for the Industrial Development Authority as of September 30th, 2014. If you'll scan down the page to total due from other governments, we have $790,111.63 that we are still waiting to be reimbursed from the clerk's office for EDA grant projects that we are funding, specifically some from the Corridor Group, Florican, the majority being from the Incubator Project. So that money we have submitted for reimbursement, but we have not received that reimbursement yet. If there's any questions on that page, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Have we provided everything at this point that the clerk's office has asked for, and do we know what the status is?
Yes, we have provided everything to the clerk's office. We've had several meetings and several forms of communication via the phone and email, making sure that they have what they need. At this point, we have been told that it's under review, but there is no end date as to when they will make a decision, I guess, if they're going to reimburse us.
Okay, thank you.
If you go to page 21, we'll take a look at the profit and loss. Total income as of September 14th, 2014, $181,111.93. Excuse me. Under expenses, I want to point out under professional fees, the $2,500 that's showing, that was a payment for the Florida Virtual Entrepreneur site that we have partnered with. That is something that Kristen had been working on when she was with us, and we use them kind of as another marketing arm. They market us. When Christy presented the analytics report, you could see that under the referrals, the Florida Virtual were one of the sites that did referrals for us. So we have a presence on their website. We have a link to our website on their website, and they have to do some work on an AC unit at Tech River. So that's why that expense is there. Under grant expenses, there's $19,000 out of that total that was for Chastain Skillman, which we talked about a little bit earlier under the surveying for the water sewer corridor grant. So that expense is showing in that category. And then under capital outlay, we have almost $25,000 showing. That relates to the incubator and paddleboard expenses that are on the books. So just to let you know, and if someone wants to see that detail, we'll be happy to give that to you. So, but our total expenses for September were $90,220.50. Do you have any questions on the profit and loss? Okay. Flip on over to page 22. That starts our profit and loss by class, where we break out each project. I won't go through all of them, but just to hit some of the highlights. There you can see the $19,000 I just spoke of. That shows up in this first group, Corridor Group. You go to the bottom, under grant expenses, there's the $19,000 showing up for the surveying. And then over to the incubator, you can see under the $16,875, almost at the bottom of the page. That was a draw for payroll expenses from Peace River Paddle Sports that they made through the grant.
On the grant recipients at the incubator, who keeps up with, are we going to get audited for the money that's spent there, or is the EDA going to get audited?
Both.
So, okay, so who keeps up with all the receipts and all that stuff if they have to do like a forensic audit or something? Who keeps up with all that?
We're the initial people that take in those receipts. Obviously, when they make a request for funds from the grant, we take in all of their receipts, invoices, bank statements. In the case of Peace River Paddle Sports, he has kind of two parts. He has, you know, the rental, the tourism aspect to his business as well. So obviously, there's some profits coming in from that side also. So we're also taking in profit and loss detail from him and keeping that on file. We're also putting that into our reimbursement packages for the clerk to see. So really, to answer your question, we keep all of that, but the clerk also has a copy of it because we have to submit all of that anyway to get reimbursement from the clerk's office. So we have it in both places. And both of us would be audited for that as well. The EDA will be looked at from their deliverables, and we will be audited under our own audits.
Okay, I noticed in here somewhere about, I think it was the paddle sports for, said payroll. Okay, and they turn in all their time sheets and all this stuff and everything.
We receive a report from QuickBooks from them that shows their payroll.
Okay.
He has his own accountant that is handling all of this for him. So we work with Trey, but we also work with his accountant and talk regularly with her. And if we need a report, she pulls it for us and they send it to us.
Well, there's a lot fixing to start happening with that incubator thing, and I'm telling you, I hope we got our ducks in a row when it comes to these financial things and all.
I feel like we have a pretty good system in place. We're very detailed in keeping track of the invoices and keeping them together. We're not that we wouldn't do it anyway, but we're forced to do it. We're forced to be very, you know, stringent and detailed in what we keep because we have to turn that in to the clerk of courts in order to get reimbursement on these grants anyway. So, you know, in a sense, we are forced to do it. So therefore, we're
Court don't
doing
look at all these receipts and everything. They just
Yes,
They are.
They do
They do.
actually. They have a
Yes.
very strict system of checks and balances on the grant funding reimbursement to the IDA. So
Okay.
they are looking at all of that.
okay.
which is why we have an outstanding $790,000 right now that they haven't reimbursed.
Okay.
They're taking quite a bit of time to
That's good.
go through it with a fine-tooth comb, so.
I'm good.
And if we don't have enough information, they let us know and say, you have to turn it back in and you need to provide this. So it's a very detailed process.
Well, who looks into, when they turn in, for a reimbursement, the grant recipients?
Mhm.
And how do you know that what kind of information do you have that they actually spent the money for what they're saying they did? Is it the receipts, what does it?
They'll provide us actual receipts, as well as bank statements. We have bank statements on every request. We have receipts for every request. We tie those back to what their request for funding was, and basically go item by item and check it off that it matches what their original request was.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. I think we can skip over to page 25. Under the Peace River Paddle, again, you'll see expenses. I don't know, it's showing under Cantu Apiaries for some reason. We need to change that, Christie. Do you know, Christie, can you elaborate on that?
It's close. It's actually capital outlay.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry, it looks like it is. Okay, so that's under capital outlay for Peace River Paddle. Do you know the specific items under there that were capitalized? Okay. Under the incubator, during the retrofitting for the electric, we had to put in additional panels in order to be able to service the expected growth of the incubator. So we are capitalizing those items, and that is Slentz Electric are the ones who are performing that service for us. So that is the amount that will be placed under capital outlay for the additional panels. I think that's all I have under the class. Starting on page 27 is the general ledger again for the IDA. So if you have any questions on a particular transaction, we can go through those, or a particular project, excuse me. We'll be able to answer any questions at this point.
You talking about to the end of this? Yeah, I've just got some questions. Things in here that I don't understand. On page 29, up at the top on the miscellaneous income says rent payment from, I guess that's NutriPure? Oh, Nutri.
Yes, that would be NutriPure, who is out at the Commerce Park. They actually sent us a check for this $4,800 that apparently had not been paid when they were still under a lease with the building.
Oh.
So that was an additional rent payment that came into the IDA.
Okay. Page 30. Up there, under says grant expense as a purchase cashier's check. What was that about?
It says, it was a deposit. We have purchased a cashier's check for a license. We decided to hold off on that license, so we have more information, so I just redeposited the cashier's check.
We will be having to obtain, obviously, several different license holdings for the incubator once we're in operation, for the fill line, the manufacturing aspect. That was, we basically didn't jump the gun, but kind of did. We were at the point where we thought we were going to go ahead and apply for that license, so we expended the amount in the cashier's check, and then, again, like she said, decided to hold off on that, so we reimbursed it back.
Okay.
But at some point, that will come out again, because the license does have to be obtained.
Okay, there was another one somewhere if I can find it. I guess there wasn't. Okay, I'm good.
Okay?
Any other questions or comments from board members? If not, we'll open for a motion to approve the financials as presented. Do we have a second? Any other comments from board members? Any public comment? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll move on into announcements, other business, public comment. I think Bill wanted to share some information with us.
The Architectural Review Committee of the CRA has come back with a recommendation for the exterior of the incubator. It's basically not a lot to do. We're looking at repairing and refurbishing some of the flashing on the exterior of the building and painting it. The paint, the top tan color will remain almost exactly the same, but they want to put a darker tan below the top facade. And then the columns, if you can rotate that. Well, I'll let you rotate. What they're also recommending, just to give the building, to make it stand out, is to wrap about the bottom 3 or 4 feet of the columns out front with a top of riverstone like this. It's not a major expense, but it will give the building some architectural appeal. And we're just letting you know that's where we're headed with the exterior of the building. the board would like to take further review or vote or whatever, it's entirely up to you. I don't know exactly what procedure to use to move us forward.
Do we have an estimated cost?
The painting is the majority of it. The bricks are very small. There's not a lot to it.
But this is complete renovation like you were talking.
No, we're not tearing into any of the building. We're just gonna paint it and add these bricks at the bottom of the columns just to give it some contrast.
And some signage.
And the signs, of course, have to be done too. There's a sign out front on the southbound lane, and we have to put one on the northbound lane. We're gonna take all the fencing down, and we have some landscaping. We'll come back to you with that.
Who owns the parking lot just south?
We do.
We do.
Does it need to be resurfaced?
We're evaluating whether we're gonna patch it and recoat it or resurface it, but I don't think we'll resurface it this year.
Is the traffic on that thing going to be a hindrance? I mean, you go by that, there's 3 or 4 semis parked there.
We have pretty much controlled the semis now. They still come in occasionally, but for the most part, those local drivers that were parking there have been instructed that it would no longer be available for them. There's a lot of traffic that goes through there, but,
I don't mean the cars or something, I mean, you see big semis parked there overnight and stuff.
as I said, we are slowly culling them out. We still will anticipate some of them parking there, and frankly, if they're way down on the south end, I wouldn't object to it, but.
Those are gonna get in the way.
Right, the ones that stop there and the driver's sleeping there is not as big a problem as one that actually drops their trailer and takes off and goes somewhere else. They're a little more of a problem, so.
You're gonna leave that, loading dock there on the east side?
We're gonna take that out.
And the fencing.
And if, I don't know if the county would be interested in fencing, we don't have a use for it.
I think that the brick is gonna add a very nice appearance to the exterior, and it should be, you know, we're taking something that's been an eyesore and turning it into something that not only looks nice, but actually will incubate, some of our businesses, so I'm excited about that. Any other comments on, the brick or the incubator? Do we have any other questions, announcements, input from board members? If not, we will open up for public comment. Do we have any public comment at this time? If not, we will open for a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, we're adjourned.